Picture this sentence arriving in your group chat. Public schools should ban smartphones during class. No logo, no name. It sounds sensible, so you nod before you reach the period. Then the avatar loads. It belongs to someone from the side you distrust. Same words, same punctuation. Your reaction may change anyway. That is not automatically irrational. A source's record can matter. But did you inspect competence and honesty, or just recognize the jersey? If a label can reshape your judgment after the sentence has already made sense to you, some of what feels like independent thought may actually be a social reflex. So when you say, my opinion, what do you own? The conclusion, the reasons, or the social world that taught the conclusion to feel obvious? The easy answer is that algorithms, politicians, advertisers, and one extremely confident cousin install beliefs in helpless brains. Conveniently, this theory explains everyone except the person telling it. People are not mental sponges. We check whether a claim sounds plausible, whether the source knows the subject, what they gain from persuading us, and whether 10 voices are really one source echoed 10 times. We need those filters, but they can be badly calibrated. A familiar face can get trust it has not earned. An unfamiliar one can lose trust before the evidence gets heard. In 4 experiments, people judged a social policy largely through the position assigned to their political party. Under those conditions, the label outweighed much of the policy content, even when they processed the proposal carefully. Influence often works by feeding the signals your filters already trust. That raises a more uncomfortable question. Who trained the filters? Identity turns millions of strangers into us. It helps people coordinate, divide expertise, and decide whose warning deserves attention. That is not a defect. No one can personally verify the entire world. But identity can also act as a private lens. It changes what grabs attention, which ambiguity feels threatening, and which source receives the benefit of the doubt. In public, the same opinion can become a badge. Agreement earns recognition. Doubt risks suspicion. The belief now has a social job beyond describing reality. Not every opinion is a badge, and the arrow can point both ways. A group may shape a view, or an existing view may lead you toward the group that welcomes it. Still, a lot of public debate behaves less like a search for truth and more like a loyalty test with footnotes. The sharper finding was their blind spot. Participants denied that the group had moved them, while expecting political opponents to be influenced by their own side. This was one U.S. study using political identities and experimental policies. It cannot tell us that every view is tribal, that both sides are equally accurate, or that source information never matters. It shows what can happen under those conditions. A jersey can change the inspection. So remove it. If the rival group announced your exact position tomorrow, would the argument still look strong? Here is the first answer. Yes, your opinions are yours, but they are not yours alone. The real test is whether you can tell what the evidence built and what belonging made expensive to question. An opinion hides several things: a factual belief, an emotional attitude, a value, a preference, or a public allegiance. Moving one may leave the others exactly where they were. Your reasons are complicated too. Sometimes they cause the opinion. Sometimes the decision happened first, and the reason arrived later, wearing a tie and carrying a neat explanation. That does not make the opinion fake. A reason can be sincere and still be reconstructed, and that does not erase your agency. It tells you what your agency has been working with. Now you post an opinion and choose to defend it in public. If the claim matters to your identity, a conflict can appear. I am reasonable, yet I may be wrong. That discomfort is cognitive dissonance. You can reconsider the claim, or you can reduce the discomfort, discount the evidence, question the critic's motives, quietly redefine what you meant. When the commitment was your choice, made in public, with your reputation attached, backing out can feel much harder. Your commitment can keep growing even when the evidence does not. Then the internet adds an audience. A feed rarely asks only, is this true? It also asks, will my people like this? Will it travel? Will I look sharp for posting it first? Across 4 experiments involving more than 3,000 people, paying for accurate judgments made participants better at telling true news from false news and reduced partisan bias. Most of the improvement came from recognizing true news from the opposing side. In one experiment, a different reward pulled the other way. When participants were asked what their political allies would like, their judgments became less accurate, and they reported greater willingness to share politically convenient posts. Same brain, different scoreboard. The internet did not invent tribalism. It attached a scoreboard to it. Visible approval can reward the version of you most willing to perform an opinion in public. Now for a correction to the correction. Factual corrections usually improve factual accuracy. Across repeated experiments on dozens of political issues, people generally move toward the evidence. The famous automatic backfire was hard to find. But a corrected fact is not the same as a changed value, identity, policy preference, or behavior. One part can move while the rest stays put. Identity does not make evidence powerless. It can limit how far people update and influence which messenger they trust. That leaves a harder problem. How do you make an update possible when changing your mind has a social cost? In 3 pre-registered field experiments on immigration and transgender rights, brief conversations that exchanged personal narratives without judgment produced small but durable attitude shifts. In the first experiment, a version built around arguments without that exchange showed no detectable effect. The successful shifts were modest, not a mass conversion. The researchers could not isolate one magic mechanism, and 2 issues do not represent every belief. This gives us a clue, not a universal method. Still, the pattern points toward a better question. Instead of trying to destroy the argument, ask, what got you to that level of confidence, and what would bring it down? A useful conversation may give someone room to revise without public humiliation. That same principle can be built into the groups and procedures around us. You cannot personally verify medicine, climate data, court records, or what happened 3 streets away. We have to think with other people. Thinking for yourself means knowing why you trusted them and keeping the right to audit that trust. The same group machinery that rewards conformity can reward correction. Teams can protect dissent. Leaders can admit errors. A review process can hide the author's name until the claim itself has been examined. You do not choose every family, workplace, country, hierarchy, or algorithm around you, but you can change some procedures. Decide in advance what evidence would matter. Review the claim before the logo. Let people revise privately. Give status to the person who catches the error before the error becomes tradition. Return to the sentence. Public schools should ban smartphones during class. Hide the avatar and read it again. Did the sentence change, or did your relationship to the speaker change? An opinion can be yours, even if it did not begin with you. Ownership starts when you can explain the reasons, name evidence that would move you, and notice the social cost you are trying to avoid. A borrowed opinion is hardest to inspect when it feels so much like you that inspection feels like betrayal.